Erskine Talbot passed away on Sunday, May 12, 2024, at the age of 89, in the upstairs bedroom of the white frame farmhouse on the 940-acre Talbot Place outside Roberts, Illinois, the same house and the same bedroom in which his wife Iva had passed in 1989, and his father in 1992, and his mother in 1976. Erskine had farmed the property for 66 seasons. He had no surviving brothers. His only son, Harley Talbot, 52, an architect in Indianapolis, had not seen the farmstead in 31 years. Harley drove up the gravel lane in a metallic gray 2022 Audi Q5 on Tuesday, May 28, 2024, 16 days after the funeral. The estate attorney in Paxton, a 64-year-old woman named Pearl Deal, who had handled the Talbot family's papers since 1981, had given Harley a key to the back door, an inventory list of equipment in the machine shed, and a handwritten note from his father dated October 7, 2022, that simply read, "Harley, the farm is yours. The barns are yours. Be patient with what you find." If this kind of story matters to you, the kind where the numbers tell the truth and the work speaks for itself, we'd be honored if you subscribed. Pearl Deal had also given Harley 3 names: Earl Braddock, Virgil Kemp, and Willa Stoddard, and a single instruction Pearl had quoted from his father's last conversation with her in March of 2024. "If Harley comes home, tell him to call Earl Braddock first." Harley called the Braddock farmstead at 9:42 a.m. Wednesday, May 29, 2024. Earl picked up at the kitchen landline. Ruth was at the table with her coffee. "Mr. Braddock, this is Earl." "Harley Talbot. Erskine Talbot was my father. He passed 2 weeks ago. The estate attorney told me to call you first." "Pearl Deal told you that." "She did." "I'm sorry about your father, Harley." "Thank you. I'd like to ask if you would come out to the farm and walk the equipment with me. Pearl said you and my father were not close, but you respected each other. She said you'd give me an honest assessment." "When?" Earl asked. "Whenever you can spare the morning." "Friday at 8? "Friday at 8. If you're still here, subscribe. We don't rush these stories because the people in them didn't rush the work." Earl drove out to the Talbot farmstead at 7:48 a.m. Friday, May 31st, 2024, with Virgil Kemp in the passenger seat of the 2017 Chevy Silverado 2500. The Talbot place was 14 miles east of Gibson City on Route 9. Earl had not been on the property since the spring of 1990, when he and Walter had stopped by for a coffee and a discussion of a shared drainage assessment. Walter had been alive then. Erskine had been 55 and recently widowed. The visit had lasted 22 minutes. The farmstead Earl drove into on May 31st looked older than 34 years should have made it. The white farmhouse needed paint. The yard fence sagged. The driveway gravel was thin. A barn at the back of the property, the old hay barn, had its eastern doors padlocked shut with a chain that Earl could see from the road. Harley met them in the gravel drive. He was 52, trim, short dark hair graying at the temples, navy Patagonia button-down, khaki pants, suede chukka boots, clothes that did not belong on a farmstead, but did not apologize for being there. "Earl, Virgil," Harley said. "Harley." "Thank you for coming." "It's all right." Pearl said the inventory list is on the kitchen table. "I haven't been inside the equipment shed yet. I wanted you to see it first." The equipment shed held a 2007 John Deere 7330 with 6,840 hours, a 1991 John Deere 4455 with 9,210 hours, a 1996 John Deere 9500 combined with 4,140 hours, 3 grain wagons, an air seeder, and a 1979 John Deere 4440, Erskine's original main tractor, with 11,420 hours. All 5 pieces were in working order, recently serviced, fluids fresh. Virgil walked the shed slowly and pronounced everything sound. The estate's projected auction value across the equipment shed alone was approximately $182,000. "This is straightforward," Earl said. "It is." "What about the back barn?" Pearl said my father told her in March, and I quote, "There is something in the back barn that has been there 31 years. Tell Harley to take Earl Braddock with him when he opens it." "Did Pearl tell you what it is?" Earl asked. "No. She said my father told her not to." "Then we ought to walk back to it." "That's why you're here." The back barn at the Talbot place sat 220 yards north of the equipment shed at the far end of a gravel 2-track that had not been mowed alongside in 31 years. The double doors on the east end of the barn were chained with a heavy padlock that Harley had brought a bolt cutter for. Virgil cut the chain at 9:12 a.m. The hasp let go with a single hard snap. The doors swung outward on hinges that had not moved since 1993. Inside, the air was warm and dry and smelled of old hay. The barn was 60 feet deep and 38 feet wide, post and beam construction from 1898, the floor concrete, the walls weathered oak. Stacked from floor to roof along the south wall were old square hay bales, 200 of them give or take, stacked maybe 7 high in 12 rows. The bales were dusty. The bales had not been moved. "Hay's old," Virgil said. "How old?" Harley asked. 12 years at minimum, more likely 25 or 30. Mold pattern on the cut ends suggests early 1990s. "There's something behind it," Earl said. "Why do you say that?" "Because no man stacks 200 bales 7 high in a barn he uses. He stacks them like that to hide what's behind them." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." Earl, Virgil, and Harley spent 2 hours and 40 minutes moving 188 of the bales. The bales were brittle but intact. Each weighed roughly 50 pounds. They worked from the top of the stack downward, dropping bales onto the concrete floor, breaking some open in the moving. By 11:50 a.m., a clear path had opened along the back wall of the barn. Behind the bales, against the north wall of the barn, sat a dust-covered shape under a heavy tan canvas tarp that had not been touched since 1993. Earl pulled the tarp off carefully. Underneath was a 1985 John Deere 4640 in factory-faded green paint, white front grille, 18.4 to 38 rear tires that were original equipment Firestone, a 4-cylinder configuration that wasn't quite right. The 4640 was a 6. Earl looked at the hour meter through the dust on the dash glass. The meter read 218 hours. 218 hours, Earl said. On a 1985 4640, Virgil said. On a 1985 4640. "Earl, this tractor was bought new in 1985 and put in this barn before it ever saw a full season." "It was? Why?" Harley asked. "That's the question," Earl said. Earl called Willa Stoddard at 12:18 p.m. from the cab of the Silverado. Willa was 71, retired Robertstown librarian, kept the unofficial Talbot family history in a converted spare bedroom in her house in Roberts. She had served as the town librarian for 38 years until 2018. She picked up on the second ring. Earl Braddock. I heard Harley was in town. He is? Willa, we found something in the back barn at the Talbot place. A 1985 John Deere 4640 with 218 hours on the meter, hidden behind 200 bales of hay since 1993. The line was quiet for 15 seconds. Earl, Willa said, I think I know what you found. Tell me. Come over this afternoon. Bring Harley. I have papers. Earl, Virgil, and Harley drove to Willa's house in Roberts at 2:15 p.m. Willa met them at the kitchen door. The kitchen table held 3 thin manila folders, a small stack of microfilmed Roberts record clippings, and a black-and-white photograph in an old cardboard frame. Erskine Talbot bought a brand-new 1985 John Deere 4640 from the Lyman family dealership in Paxton on March 18, 1985, Willa said. The sale price was $52,800. Erskine put $7,200 down and financed the remaining $45,600 over 7 years at 13.5% interest. The note was co-signed by his younger brother, Denver Talbot, a financial favor that was standard practice between the brothers in those years. Denver co-signed the loan. Erskine paid the loan in full by April of 1992. What happened in 1993? Earl asked. Their father, Hiram Talbot, passed in October 1992. Hiram's will divided the original 1898 Talbot homestead, 320 acres, equally between Erskine and Denver. The legal description in the will referred to the homestead and all chattels and equipment thereon as of the date of testator's death. Erskine read chattels and equipment broadly. Denver did not. Denver wanted half the 4,640, Harley said. Denver wanted half the 4,640, plus half the 4,440, plus half the combine, plus half the equipment shed. Erskine refused. The brothers met with their father's lawyer in Paxton on January 14, 1993. The meeting lasted 22 minutes. Denver walked out and never spoke to Erskine again. Why hide the 4640? Harley asked. Erskine refinanced the farm operation in May of 1993. The bank wanted a complete equipment inventory for the new mortgage. Erskine listed the 4440 and the combine, but did not list the 4640. He told Pearl Deal in 2022 that he hid the 4640 because he was afraid Denver would file a lien against it under the Wills Chattels Clause if Denver knew Erskine still owned it. That's why the bales went up in 1993. Denver died in 1998. Denver died of a stroke in Mahomet on November 4th, 1998. He was 61. He died believing the 4640 had been sold years earlier. The brothers had not spoken in 5 years. Erskine attended the funeral. He did not approach the casket. And Erskine kept the 4640 hidden anyway, Harley said. He kept it hidden 26 more years, Willa said, until he passed himself. Why? That's the question Pearl Deal asked him in March of 2024, Willa said. She told me about it after his funeral. He said he had kept it hidden for 26 years out of guilt the first 10, and out of pure stubbornness the last 16. He said he had stopped opening the back barn after Denver died because he could not bring himself to look at the tractor and remember why he had hidden it in the first place. "He never told me," Harley said. "He told no one, Harley, not me, not Pearl, not Earl, not the bank. The 4640 has not been on a single registered tax document, insurance schedule, or bank inventory since May of 1993. As far as the state of Illinois is concerned, the tractor does not exist." "Then how do I prove I own it?" "You have the original 1985 sale receipt," Willa said. "It's in the manila envelope in your father's hutch drawer. Pearl confirmed it last week. You also have the canceled note from Farmers State Bank, dated April 1992, confirming the loan was paid in full. You have the chain of title clean. You just need to register the tractor with the Illinois Department of Revenue and pay 31 years of back personal property tax on it." "How much is that?" Harley asked. "On a tractor worth what the 4640 is worth, depending on the assessed value, somewhere between $4,800 and $7,200 in back taxes plus interest. Manageable." "What is the 4640 worth?" Harley asked. "Earl is the man to answer that," Willa said. Earl turned to Harley. "A 1985 John Deere 4640 with 218 original hours. Factory paint, no rust, no field damage, untouched since the year Bill Clinton was inaugurated. Harley, that tractor is somewhere between $42,000 and $52,000 to a vintage collector. Maybe more if a restoration shop in Iowa decides to bid on it. 42 to 52,000. 42 to 52,000, maybe 60, if you take her to a dedicated vintage Deere auction in Cedar Rapids." "And what would you pay for her?" Harley asked. "I'd pay $24,000 for her right here in your barn," Earl said. "I'd pay it because I have a place to keep her, a mechanic to maintain her, and 3 other tractors of her vintage in my home shed. I'd pay it because she belongs in a working shed, not at a Cedar Rapids auction, but that is half what she'd bring at the Cedar Rapids sale. So if you take my offer, you take a $24,000 discount on a tractor your father hid from his brother for 31 years. Harley was quiet for a long moment. "What would my father have done if he were sitting in this kitchen?" Harley asked Willa. "Erskine would have sold her to Earl for $24,000, Willa said, without thinking twice. "Why?" "Because Erskine spent 31 years feeling guilty about hiding her from Denver. He would have wanted her to go to a man who would run her, not a collector who would put her under glass." $24,000, Harley said. $24,000, Earl said. "Done." Gregor Alms walked into Willa's kitchen at 4:18 p.m. that afternoon. Gregor was 73, lean, weathered, silver-gray hair under a faded green John Deere cap from the 1980s. Full silver mustache, tan Carhartt vest over a long-sleeve gray Henley, dark Wrangler jeans, brown work boots. He had farmed 720 acres directly south of the Talbot place since 1972. He had not spoken to a Talbot since Denver's funeral in November 1998. "Willa called me," Gregor said. "She did," Earl said. You found the 4640. We did. Gregor sat down at the kitchen table. He looked at Harley for a long moment. Then he extended his right hand across the table. Harley, I'm Gregor Alms. I knew your father from when he was 18 years old. I knew your Uncle Denver from when he was 16. I watched the two of them stop speaking on January 14th, 1993. In the parking lot of Pearl Deal's law office. I never thought I'd shake the hand of a Talbot again. I'm shaking yours now. Mr. Alms. Gregor, you knew about the 4640? I suspected for 31 years, Gregor said. I never asked. The bales went up in May of 1993. I drove past the Talbot place every Tuesday on my way to the Roberts elevator. I saw the new chain on the barn. I never asked your father what was behind it. He never told me. Why didn't you ask? Because some things a man hides are his to hide, Gregor said. Whether they should be hidden or not is between him and his maker. And now? And now your father is gone? The 4640 is yours? Earl has offered you a fair price. Take it. $24,000. $24,000 in your hand today, Gregor said, is worth more than 52,000 hauled off to a Cedar Rapids auction your father would have hated. My father would have hated a Cedar Rapids auction. Your father would have hated that with both hands. Harley signed the bill of sale on Willa's kitchen table at 5:14 p.m. Friday afternoon, May 31st, 2024. The price was $24,000. Earl wrote a check on the Braddock farm account. Willa notarized the bill of sale on the spot. She had been a notary public since 1986. The 4640 became the property of Earl Braddock at 5:18 p.m. The Cedar Rapids auctioneer, who had heard rumors of the find and called Willa twice that afternoon, was politely told the tractor was no longer available. Virgil Kemp brought a flatbed trailer to the Talbot back barn at 9 a.m. Saturday morning, June 1st, 2024. He, Earl, and Harley loaded the 4640 onto the trailer with the help of a winch. The tractor's tires had not turned in 31 years. The hubs were tight. The bearings were dry. Virgil pulled her out slowly, inch by inch, the original equipment Firestone tires creaking against the concrete. The 4640 rolled onto the flatbed at 10:12 a.m. Earl drove her home to the Braddock farmstead. Restoration began the following Monday. Virgil drained 31 years of fuel from the tank, 11 gallons of solidified resin where diesel used to be, flushed the lines, pulled the injector pump, sent the pump to a rebuild shop in Springfield for $640, replaced fuel and oil and hydraulic fluid for $1,180 in parts, regapped the glow plugs, set the timing, pressure tested the cooling system. The 4640 fired off the third crank on Tuesday, June 18th, 2024, in Virgil's two-bay shop. The hour meter clicked over to 219. That's the first hour she's run since 1992, Virgil said. It is, Earl said. $24,000 for a tractor with 218 hours on the original meter. That's the price. That's the deal of the decade, Earl. It's a fair deal, Earl said. Harley got cash he could split with no one. No brother, no cousin, no claimant. I got a 1985 4640 in factory paint for half what she'd bring at auction. Both sides walked out clean. That's a fair deal. Total restoration cost from June 1st to June 18th, 2024 came to $2,460. $640 for the rebuilt injector pump. $1,180 in fluids and filters. $185 for a fresh battery. $220 for new fuel hoses. $235 in miscellaneous gaskets and seals. Nathan walked into Virgil's shop at 4:30 p.m. Tuesday. He looked at the 4640 idling for the first time in 32 years. He shook his head once. "Dad, I've been on this farm 28 years," Nathan said. "I've never seen a 1985 4640 with 219 hours." "You won't again, Nathan," Earl said. "How does a tractor sit untouched 31 years?" "A man hides her," Earl said, for reasons that mattered to him at the time. "Will you tell me what those reasons were someday?" "I'll tell you the whole story over dinner, Nathan, after your mother puts the chicken on." Dale Voss drove out to the Braddock farmstead the following Saturday in his white GMC Yukon. He was 61, ruddy face, wire-rimmed glasses, clean polo, and khakis. He leaned on the open driver's door. "Earl, heard about the Talbot barn." "You did?" $24,000 for a 1985 4640 with 218 hours. "That's the price." Dale grinned with a wide, smug, mocking smirk and a small, dismissive laugh, shaking his head as if Earl had taken advantage. "That's the steal of the century, Earl. You should have offered $18,000 and let Harley sweat. Architect from Indianapolis doesn't know what a tractor's worth. You could have gotten her for half that." "I could have, Dale." "Why didn't you?" "Because Harley's father hid that tractor from his brother for 31 years, Earl said. "I wasn't going to add another scar to the story." "That's not how you stay in business, Earl." "It's exactly how I stay in business, Dale." Dale climbed back into his Yukon and drove off without another word. He did not bring up the Talbot 4640 at the June Farm Bureau meeting. The 1985 John Deere 4640 sits in the Braddock Home Machine Shed in Gibson City, Illinois, beside Walter's 1978 4440, Roy's 1962 4010, and Lester's 1972 4030. 4 generations, 4 farmers, 4 reasons a tractor came home to the right shed. The 4640's hour meter reads 219. The factory paint is faded but unmarked. The original 1985 sale receipt, Erskine Talbot's, made out in Erskine's own hand, is in a manila envelope in the top drawer of the Braddock kitchen hutch. Alongside the other 3 papers, Harley Talbot sold the rest of the Talbot estate at a clean public auction in early August 2024. The 940-acre ground was bought by a young farming couple from northeast of Roberts. The 1991 4455, the 2007 7330, the 1996 9500 combine, and Erskine's original 1979 4440 sold for $187,400 combined, slightly above the projected estate value. Pearl Deal filed the final estate distribution paperwork in October. The 1985 4640 was listed in the schedule of sold assets at $24,000, with a notation in the long-form filing that the tractor had been hidden in the back barn from 1993 to 2024. Willa Stoddard added a 3-page typed account of the Talbot 4640 to her family history file. The account ended with a single line: Some things a man hides outlive the reasons he hid them. Erskine kept the 4640 hidden for 31 years. The reason he hid it died on November 4th, 1998. Erskine kept hiding her anyway, until he was the last man left who knew where she was. Gregor Alms drove past the Talbot place every Tuesday for the rest of June 2024 and watched the new owners begin painting the farmhouse. He drove past on Tuesday, July 9th, 2024, and saw the back barn door standing open in the summer breeze, the 200 hay bales dragged out and hauled away, the concrete floor swept clean, sunlight reaching the back wall for the first time in 31 years.